welcome back to the Promoted Podcast. I'm your host, Felicity Furey, CEO and co-founder of We Aspire. And today I'm joined by the incredible Renee Wootton, my amazing host. She is an aerospace engineer, speaker, and currently doing an internship at NASA at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is so cool. You are also a commercial pilot. The list goes on. And I think there's a whole host of awards that you've picked up this year. I don't even know how many. Renee, hello, welcome. So good to see you.
Felicity, your intro of me changes every time and I just love it so much. But it's so good to be here with you. I'm so keen to get into today's conversation around confidence. I know that you run a phenomenal business called We Aspire. You're inspiring the next generation of not only female talent, but the next generation of leaders. And I hear that through your experience in running this business and hearing back from your clientele, confidence seems to be an issue. Can you talk to us a little bit about that today?
So interesting. I feel like our participants and also the leaders of the organizations we work with, because we work mainly in we work only in construction infrastructure. And so we're often, before we start a program, working with the senior leaders, whether it's general managers, chief people officers, and they tell us we want our people to have more confidence. And I think what that points to is that they have amazing talent in their organizations who they can see have so much potential. We like to think of them as hidden leaders. They've got hidden leaders within their organization. And a lot of the time, the people who could step into leadership don't think that they can. They don't know what leadership is. And so that's why they're hidden leaders. So a lot of our clients, I'd say 90%, say we want our people to have more confidence. And that's been really interesting for me to unpack for myself, because if you told me, you need to have more confidence, like that's not something I could relate to a lot. And this word stands out to me, particularly because of early in my career. So back when I was at school, I went to an all-girls school. It was like girls can do anything. And so I didn't really ever feel like I had this lack of confidence. Maybe I questioned my abilities, or maybe I thought I wasn't good enough, but I didn't really have this lack of confidence. And then I went into a lot of women in engineering events once I graduated engineering. And I don't know if you found this, Renee, but so many of these events were saying, women need to have more confidence. Women aren't confident. And I thought, is this a thing? Is this a thing around women not being confident? And for me, it was something that I wasn't quite sure about. Then I started to doubt myself and that maybe I'm not confident. But it's certainly something that we see a lot with, I'd say, most of the people that we work with. We work with men and women. A lot of people say that they don't have confidence, or they wish people were more confident. So it's been a really big topic for us recently of how do we actually build that confidence in people and uncover that hidden leadership. How about for you, Renee? Would you say that you have always been confident? How has this conversation gone for you throughout your career?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I really relate now at this point in my life with what you're saying around being in disbelief that people don't have confidence, because I feel like for perhaps at least 5 years in my career now, I have built quite a strong level of confidence. But if I reflect on why that is and what led to that pivot point, that turning point where I suddenly really owned who I was, I owned my skills and really stepped into that level of self-confidence that I now backed myself in every situation. I have to say that I think it really came from incredible mentors that backed me in those moments where I had self-doubt, and I was backed enough consistently over years that suddenly I stopped having to rely on other people to give me that sense of self-confidence. Now, today, I really want to ask you, Felicity, did you have that turning point yourself, and what's your journey been with your own self-confidence?
I think for a lot of my career, I just wanted to fit in and be like everybody else. And I was usually the odd one out, the only female on my team. And I would describe myself as someone who's creative, and I love working with people, which probably are not the first two things you think of when you think of a civil engineer or an engineer altogether. And so I, really did hide out early on in my career, trying to be like everyone else, trying to fit in, trying to be one of the lads, have a joke around with the boys. There was a bit of like that kind of teasing kind of culture. And so that's who I thought I had to be. Now, maybe that would seem, oh, you're not confident in yourself. When you said self-confidence before, that was really interesting. And I would say I probably didn't have that, but wouldn't kind of articulate it as that specific word. So I was going along through my career, and I've been given some really amazing projects to lead myself, which was cool. But I think the pivotal moment for me was when I put on that very first Power of Engineering event. And we had 131 girls come to QUT in Brisbane. My employer at the time, AECOM, supported it, and Engineers Australia were a great support too. And we did it. There was a whole team of us that pulled it off. And I just happened to be that one that stuck my hand up and said, I'll take the lead, but it was a huge team effort. There was, dozens of people working for it on the day. And pulling that off was just huge for me because I'd never done anything like that before, never organized an event for people, let alone bring all these school kids together, doing something in an area I knew nothing about, which was STEM education. So doing that, I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, I could do something really amazing and really cool. And I did have a mentor say to me, maybe this could be a national organization. The very first meeting I had with her, she was the CEO of QGC at the time, and she was on the Reserve Bank of Australia. And I was, oh my gosh, who am I to argue with her, right? She's amazing. She's on the Reserve Bank board. What? What would I know? So that really inspired me. And I thought, why not? Why not really go for it? And that is something that continues to even give me confidence today because I go, wow, I attempted something that I had no idea how to do. We pulled it off in 3 months. We got the funding from the government when I put my hand up in November. The event happened in March. And if you know anything about schools in Australia, we're closed for 2 months, December, January. So people were doubting if it could happen. And it seems like such a small thing now because now I've run so many businesses and done all these other huge things. But I just go, wow, I could do that. And that was just something that I just didn't ever think was possible.
Yeah. And I think, this conversation is particularly important and prevalent for our younger females, I would suggest, and even men, to be honest, early on in your career, when you're really trying to establish who am I, what skills do I have to offer, am I adding value to my employer, am I a respected individual, are my values the right values, am I good to my friends, am I good to my family? It's really building up a sense of, do I have integrity? Do I have good values? And am I contributing? Am I worth something? Am I valued by the people around me, by my community? And I think maybe that's the beauty of growing and maturing and getting older in your life and your work experience is you get enough opportunities to demonstrate to yourself that, I can do this. And yes, I am good at that. And I may have started my career in this job and that was kind of awful and it didn't really suit me and my skills weren't great for that. But actually I found this other thing that I'm incredible at. And so I'm going to hone in on that and I'm going to continue my career down that path. And I think that that's the beauty of, your 20s is an incredibly special time because you're building the answers to all of those moments of doubt, that self-doubt that's kind of prevalent when we're first starting out. And if I reflect as well on the transition between school, university, and then the workplace environment, I think something that's really underrated or not talked about enough is the fact that you are assessed via a very different framework in school and university to what you're assessed like in the workplace. And no one really talks about that. I think that, you're trying to achieve incredible results and you're competing against your peers and, you want to hide information or you don't want to share things broadly because you want to get the best mark in the class so that you get that Dean's List award or whatever it might be that, people are convinced is the most important thing at that point in time. But when you come into the workplace, you not only have to present high quality work, you have to be a team player now. You have to support the people around you to build them up. And I think that navigating that transition of understanding what was previously valued is no longer the full picture. It's only part of the puzzle now. The baseline expectation for any job is that you come in and you do a great job. On top of that, you then have to contribute to the community. You have to contribute to your team. You have to help others, uplift others. It's so much more about emotional intelligence when you get into the workplace, not just your academic or perceived intelligence, your book smartness as such. So I think that that's maybe something that people don't have the opportunity to have a conversation about as they're going through that transition. And so they're fumbling, they suddenly feel a lack of confidence because they don't know how this new system works. And then it takes many years of kind of practicing in that system before you finally go, I finally figured it out. I just have to be an amazing well-rounder at everything. And only then will I, start to really understand the value and therefore build the confidence that I need to keep succeeding. And I think that that's a lot of pressure, to be honest.
Yeah.
What do you think, Felicity?
Yeah, it is a lot to go, oh, wow, this world is bigger than I think. And something that's really empowered me just recently, actually, and I speak about this a lot with my business partner and husband, Michael, is around this concept of being spiky. And we got this concept from this book, The 9 Lies About Work, absolutely incredible book. It's just totally been a game changer for us and how we think about a lot of things, particularly around strengths and strengths-based leadership. It was co-authored by a guy who worked at Gallup, which does Gallup Strengths Finder, Clifton Strengths. So he has a huge amount of research in this area. And it's been a tricky thing because I do want to be good at everything. I want to people please. I want to be that great all-rounder. But actually what the research shows is it's best if you're spiky, if you have something that's different, and you should really hone in on that difference. Like as an example, I do some coaching and mentoring, and maybe some people would say I'm good at it or I've got some proficiency at it. Michael, very good at it. And the difference between me and him is he loves it and I'm so not into it. I'm just, whenever I have a coaching call and, bless all the people out there who I've ever had a coaching call with, I just go, oh, I don't want to do that. Speaking on stage, I'm like, I'm ready. Give me the stage. And so I think really embracing those bits that actually backing yourself on those things that make you different, I think is so, so powerful. And like you said, Renee, your 20s are when you're trying to figure stuff out. I had no idea. You're trying things, you're doing, experimenting with stuff and you're not quite sure. And I think you do need to try a whole bunch of things to figure out what you're good at. And the big difference for me during that time was when I was 25, I was doing my engineering, I was being a project manager, and I was dabbling in this volunteering and this stuff on the side with Power of Engineering. And so that actually was so helpful to have that experience outside of work, that real sandpit where I could play. And there was no ramifications if I did a bad job. So I could have gone out, maybe reputationally, like, oh, there's that idiot who ran that event for school kids, probably was the worst thing that could happen, but that can be rebuilt over time. But I got to play, I got to try things out, and I got to see what I was capable of. Whereas if in my day job, particularly in a role like engineering, it's hard to take risks. One, because, and it's like this in aviation too, safety. It's a really big deal. If you mess up and safety is involved, you really can hurt people. And I've had projects where people have actually died on site, and it's a horrible experience for the whole team, no matter what the project is. And also, I think there's this, mindset as an engineer, which is so powerful around taking risks, that it makes you risk adverse. And so, and in my day job, there was no space for me to play and to try out and take on these projects in my world where I was. Now, there probably was some space to have a bit of a play, but for me, it was just too risky. Being the only woman in the team, not being able to have, that to swing out. So having those extra projects on the side enabled me to play and actually discover some of those things too. So if you're listening to this going, oh my gosh, that's me, I'm just trying to fit in, I'm not even sure what my strengths are, I don't know what my spikes are, I don't know what I'm good at, I've kind of been going along with the motions for so long, then, maybe this is your opportunity. And I like to think of it stepping out to step up. So where can you step out of your day-to-day role or where your safe, comfortable space is to try something a bit different, to see if you can uncover some of those different aspects.
I love that analogy. I think that's very fitting. And I would almost say that by stepping out to step up, you're diversifying your experience. Therefore, you're accelerating how quickly you build your confidence as well. And whilst we are also very big advocates for work-life balance, exercise, family, connection, and doing great work is super important. I think there is something to be said for really accelerating your experience through your 20s. I certainly enjoyed a lot of the opportunities, the work that I did. I mean, Felicity and I worked together on Power of Engineering. I think we were connected in my graduate term at Qantas, and we ran a few excellent events around New South Wales, and that helped me build my confidence. I think I had a very similar moment after running a big event at a school in Sydney, and I walked away and everybody got so much value out of that day, and it was a very stressful time organizing it, but it went so well, and there was so much fulfillment that I felt that I realized, hey, like I can actually do this, and that's fantastic. So I think, this path to confidence it takes time, but what would you suggest to our listeners, Felicity? So we know that it takes time. We know that, by the time you hit 30, you should have a fairly good sense of self-confidence. But we also know that some people go most of their lives without building that confidence. Or, let's say you're young, ambitious, you're capable, and you're in your early 20s, but you still haven't built that confidence, but you want to act like you have that confidence. How would you, if you had to step back today, knowing what you know now, and you were starting out, you're in your early 20s, what would you try and recommend to our younger people around how can you start to try and demonstrate that you're confident? Or, do you have any other recommendations on what your mindset needs to be in order to start working towards that?
I think it's actually really, really tiny steps rather than big steps. So you might have a big goal, like I want to be a CEO one day, or I want to get paid to do a speech, something like that, or I want to win this award. So you've got these big goals that you're working towards. But it's kind of like, running a marathon or doing a triathlon. You're not going to just go out and do it from day one. You're going to do these like small steps over time to get there. And so I think by, if you go, oh my gosh, I've got this big goal and it seems overwhelming, or, I've got to try and figure this out. Actually, it's those kind of day-to-day things that can make a big difference. And I had this amazing manager who I'll never forget. He said to me, it's hard to measure progress if you haven't been tracking it. And it sounds so obvious, but actually I was really lost in my role because I wasn't actually seeing how far I'd come. And I think when you're redoing your CV or you're writing an award submission, that's a great time to pause and actually look at what you've done. So I think the first step is like wherever you're at, just pause. Like I often forget that actually getting an engineering degree is pretty hard. And I failed some stuff and it really took something for me to finish. And actually, I should be so proud of that every single day. And it's those things where it's like, yeah, engineering degree. Of course, we're like massively biased towards engineers. But it's that, but actually that is huge. Like I always wanted to live in Melbourne. That was one of the things I wanted to do in my life. I lived in Melbourne for 4 years. Like I did that. And, moving cities, moving jobs, all that kind of stuff. Like it actually takes someone to do that. It takes someone to go, see you later, family, see you later, friends. I'm going to do something like that. So those things I'm really proud of. So I actually legit have a spreadsheet for my goals and I have on there all the things I've accomplished.
I still remember this spreadsheet. We were in Melbourne. We went for breakfast. And you showed me the spreadsheet. It was probably 6 years ago. After I saw the spreadsheet, everyone, and it had everything. She tracked everything, whether it was finances, whether it was like, how well one of your posts on social media went, how many events you'd done in the year, how many people participated. Like, what a spreadsheet.
So good. Keep going. Even like how many people I've spoken to, but actually those things are so helpful. So as a simple example, I've tracked how many people I've spoken to in presentations, and the number is wild. It's over 25,000 people at last count. And I've done, like over 300 speeches in like 5 different countries or something. So actually, when I look at the data, I'm like, whoa, that's nuts. So sometimes like during COVID, there was a period of time where there wasn't many speeches happening because it was lockdown. And so I had to legit looked at my spreadsheet and went, oh, I've spoken to 25,000 people. Like, I must be all right. Hey, like I must know how to speak to people on a stage. Cool. And so, yeah, when I'm having those moments and I have, like look at that as like that, physical reminder I've done these things. Or even like, you and I, Renee, got to fly in those incredible S211 fighter jets and go, oh my God, we got to do that. That is so cool. Like even, and I tell myself now when I go to do a speech or I'm like getting paid or even invited and not being paid and it's a super impressive event, I go, wow, someone asked me to do this, like back myself in that. So I think having those small wins and having it written down and putting it on your CV or doing an award submission is a great way to refresh that. And I really think it's important for me to have my goals of here's the big stuff that I want to do, because I'm often in the, oh, it's never enough. It's never enough. I have to do more. I'm not where I want to be yet. And I have to remind myself, actually, no, one of my huge goals is running my own business full time and stepping into this space where we get to help leaders. And I'm so proud of that. You've got to have that as well as, the goals going forward. So I think there's small steps, and it could be that the goal will take years to achieve. And it could just be asking yourself the question, did I move it forward today? Yes or no? Yep, you did. Okay, great. If you didn't, what can I do to move it forward today? It could be I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to get an accountability buddy. It could look in so many different ways. There's just one thing that you can do each day to move it forward.
I love that. And I think, speaking from my own experience, I can't tell you how many times I've put my hand up for something because I was scared of it. So I'll use some examples. When I was going through university, I ended up deciding to go and do this incredibly advanced theoretical mathematics course as one of my electives. And the reason I chose to do it is because I was really scared of it. I didn't want to be defeated by my fear. So I said, no, I'm going to enroll and I'm going to go and fight this fear. And if I apply that then to the workplace, when I was 18, I was presenting to the executive leadership team in engineering, and I asked for that opportunity, and I was so scared when I actually got given the opportunity, but I had to ask in the first place, and then I had to deliver. So, and I can still remember the moments where my knees were knocking, my heart rate was just pumping out of my chest, waiting to go up and present. And because I did that, I got noticed by the ELT, and then I got put forward to go and do a rotation at British Airways in London from Sydney. I think that you don't realize where something can take you until you've put your hand up and pushed through that fear. So what I would suggest in building confidence and backing yourself early where you still haven't built that confidence is take small steps. Start tracking your goals and planning how you want to get to that next one. Reflect on how far you've come. Put your hand up and push through those uncomfortable moments. And also realize how far you've come to that point. If you've completed an engineering degree or any degree, that is hard. And because you've made it through, you've already got what it takes to keep getting better. And you're human. You can't expect yourself to go from an engineering graduate through to an executive leader in the span of 5 years. You have a lot to learn. And I think that if you approach things with an inspiration and excitement, a level of energy to accept risk, to accept change, to accept pushing through the fear, you're on the right track for success. I think it's then just a matter of time and proving it to yourself for you to really build that self-confidence. Felicity, any final thoughts?
Good. I'd love to know from our audience, is this something that you experience? And for me, it's not the word isn't confidence, it's self-doubt. I've definitely experienced that before. Is this something that you've experienced? I'd love to hear from the blokes out there, as well as the women or non-binary, everyone in between. Let us know. Is this something that you faced in your career? Send us a message and we'd love to answer your questions. So please do that. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you in the next episode, Renee.
See you in the next episode, Felicity. Great chat as always.
Good chats.